administration.
Good.
Salaam Ismail, 14 Goodman Place here. Elizabeth, Director of the National United Council Incorporated. I'm here to speak of, I left some paperwork, I think with your secretary or representative from the board, for each member of the board. I'm asking the board to consider a resolution supporting the Massive Youth March, which is a march dedicated to youth that is scheduled to bring buses from around the state of young kids to express their issues and their concerns at the state capitol, which is Saturday, April 22nd at 1 p.m. at the State House. Elizabeth will be well represented. And we're hoping this board, like in boards across the state, and city council, and mayors, and assemblymen have already supported and endorsed it. So hopefully this can go into your agenda for next week to pass a resolution supporting this. It's not anti-anything, it's pro-everything that deals with youth in the state. I don't have to give you a whole lecture about education cuts and what have you, and the current governmental situation. The other thing I want to consider, a number of issues our organization has been researching on, and that is the curriculum of inclusion, which was something that was presented to the board some time ago by the late great Charles Harris, and was pushed, I think he was the NAACP president at that time. And I was hoping that the board can research that and get back on track with that issue. Don't have enough time to talk about that. The other thing is, as I mentioned before, is to, last time I was here, I was hoping that I would get a chance to speak to whoever is on the committee to deal with dropout rates and what have you. My organization is concerned about that. So I hope whoever that individual that's heading that committee be considered talking to us. And in my last 45 seconds, I don't have too much to say. I could sing and dance, but I'm not going to do that. One of the things I'm concerned about, speaking from the African American community, although the numbers are basically the same in terms of population, we're about 19.9%, something like that, but we're a poor population. And there's a concern across the board of various services, educational services, community services, and what have you, that I'm concerned about. I'm hoping that as we present numbers of proposals that impacts our community, that board would adhere to. So in the coming months, that's what we intend to do. We already presented some, we're going to be presenting others. And lastly, could you change your phone system? Because it doesn't really, it's kind of crazy when you call and try to reach different departments. Back in the day, you call and say, superintendent, they will say this and that. So for administration purposes, change that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone. As most of you know, you have heard me speak here for the past 3 years now about parents' right to refuse standardized testing like PARCC, and the lack of information being provided to parents in the district. Last year, I presented to the board a list of many other districts with refusal policies as an example of what this district could do so that parents would not be confused as to what the protocol is and what's expected for parents to assert their right to refuse. Linden, I sent a message to the board president with the policy that Linden has. I'm going to pass it along. It's a great policy. They actually have a refusal policy written. They send out a letter to parents and it says, I understand the reality that we cannot force a child to take a standardized test, but we also respect the parent's right to make this decision for their child when it comes to their education. And then it goes on to explain what will happen with the child when they choose to not take the test. So I'm going to pass this along. I hope the attorney will review it because I do remember, I think it was last year, Mr. Williams, I had sent you an email, and I remember you saying somewhere along the lines that this district could not do that. And on January 16th, I sent you an email with the memo from the Commissioner of Education on how to handle refusals. I also emailed the then board president, Mrs. Bacchus, and Commissioners Rodriguez, Neuron, Carvalho, Nina, several examples of other districts with refusal policies. I have a copy here of the emails. I also have a copy of the letter that, like I said, a copy of the letter for Linden. But you choose to keep parents in the dark about this, and I don't understand why, when so many other districts have done it. The other thing I wanted to mention was the recent judgment that came down. An administrative law judge rendered a decision within the executive branches of the state government of findings of fact, legal analysis, and conclusion, and gave his report to the State Ethics Commission for adoption, with the recommendation that 4 board members be ordered censured because of their clear conflict of interest. Maria Carvalho, Stan Neuron, Danina, and Jose Rodriguez. That means that 4 board members voted for Mr. Quest's appointment were ineligible to vote due to the school ethics prohibition. Several of these board members either work directly for the city or have 1 or more relatives who work there. As a city council member, Mr. Quest's vote has an influence over the board members' jobs. No one is questioning if Mr. Quest can do his job he was appointed to do. What is being questioned, and has always from day one, is if these board members acted unethically in voting and not abstaining. The judge obviously agreed. Mr. Williams, the board attorney, did these board members a disservice by not advising the affected members, can I continue, or of their course of action. The taxpayers will now have to shell out the legal fees, something this particular board members condemned the previous board for doing. Now these same board members are going to vote on an academy of finance, name the school after their boss, Mayor Bowledge. No committee or input was, or community involvement. In fact, this has already been announced at the Academy of Finance, uniforms already ordered. How can this be if it was not voted on? These board members continue to defy the rules they are supposed to be upholding when they took an oath as board members by continuously participating in unethical behavior, and we, the taxpayers, are having to pay the price. Thank you.
We can name a school, particularly instead of focusing on what name of the school you're going to give it, you should focus on how Academy of Finance was split off from Halsey, and how Halsey has, again, shown up as not meeting state targets for graduation and dropout rates. I think there are more important things that we can focus on, Halsey being one of them, Dwyer being the other one, Jefferson being another one, and Edison. They showed up, and I have requested from the state historical data to prove how they continuously keep showing up and how this board keeps continuing to sit here and do absolutely nothing. There are no interventions that are going on. This is a consistent problem, and you're failing your community. I ask that you please stand up and do that before you have other citizens that rather stand up and do that for you and vote you out.
Thank you. Mr. Cowhn.
Good evening, Board President Nolan, esteemed members of the board, and Madam Superintendent. I am here tonight to speak on, I'm here tonight, I would like to talk about the announcement that was made at the Academy of Finance, also the school that I attend. I do believe that it's extremely important, rather. If you, especially talking about the name or changing the school name, you should always have community input, students input. Students are the first priority. I do believe we have a say in who was the name of our school, or any school at that. Students. We are the first priority. Also, I am here tonight to talk in regards to PARC. PARC testing has caused major conflicts lately in the past few days. I have also reached out to Mrs. Gill. I was told by my school administrator that I can't reach out to Mrs. Gill. I have to go through my parent. My parent contacted Mrs. Gill. She did not receive any answer. She left a message. We're just awaiting a response in regards to PARC. The New Jersey State Department of Ed did not implement a PARC refusal policy. Our school district did not implement a PARC refusal policy. So therefore, students can refuse the PARC testing with parental consent. I was told that by several administrators here tonight that we can. Yes, you can. According to the state, I did a follow-up on myself. I'm a student. I can do so. I've done it. You can refuse out of the PARC testing with parental consent. It's online. You can just Google Save Our Schools New Jersey is under there, or you can just type in New Jersey State Department of Education. It is under. Also, so I have started a petition in regards to the school name, the Academy of Finance. Again, I do believe students should have a say in who holds the name of our school. I think that's extremely important. I think anywhere today, you will not be able to get there without the students' help. Or that's just my opinion. I'm sorry, I'm a student. I just think that as well. Thank you. Have a great night.
How you doing? A student at Elizabeth High School. Pleased to meet you. Explain who you are and what you do.
Okay, hello, good evening, Mr. Salaam. I am cowhn Little. I am a high school student currently here in Elizabeth High School. I am a community activist and also a student advocate. I advocate on the betterments of, increasing education here in the city. And I also advocate at city council meetings so far as how we can work on to decrease conflicts in this city and so we all can move forward as citizens. I also am founder of Students of Elizabeth Uprising Committee. That committee focuses on decreasing student conflicts, the bullying, graduation requirements, and also awarships. We focus on moving this district forward in the right direction and nothing but the right direction.
Now, what would be the number one thing you would tell a student, one of your peers, how the importance of being involved, be like you, a student activist, a student advocate, whatever. What would be the one message that you would say to another fellow student?
I believe it is, and I will actually spread this word to all my peers in this district if I have the chance to. I believe as a young student, as a high school student, that it is important to speak up. If you don't speak up for what's right, then we are part of what's wrong. I do believe it's extremely important to speak up at all times.
Okay, on Saturday, April 22nd, something historic going to happen. At 1 p.m., there's going to be a massive youth march where it's going to be students like yourself all across the state that's going to emerge on the state house to talk about issues that directly impact youth. What message, once we get there, you're part of that, what message would you like to bring to the State House that other youth could kind of, I guess, spread across the state?
The message that and that's actually a great question. The message that I would like to spread out there, basically, as far as my main message is violence. Violence has become a huge impact in the state, in this country. But the only way we can focus on to decrease that impact is only in this state where we are at, and that's how we can start it. And the way we can start that is we can try to focus on all coming along together. Nothing is possible if you don't have a team or if you don't have someone behind you that you can work on this great effort with as a whole. That's what I think we can focus on.
All right, well, thanks for your comments.
No problem.
So you'll be seeing him, and as a matter of fact, he's going to be speaking at the Massive Youth March on Saturday, April 22nd, and glad to have you, brother.
Thank you. Glad to be a part.
Here's a sister activist here in the city of Elizabeth. Introduce yourself, what you represent, and what it's all about.
My name is Maria Lorenz, and I am a community advocate and also activist. And I work with special needs parents here in the community. And I also co-partner with Elizabeth Parents and Students Care, which is our group. And then we also have another group which is Elizabeth Special and Unique Kids. And that is a group typically just only for parents with special needs. And we're starting to coordinate activities and events throughout the city so that parents don't feel like they're isolated and they can't take their kids out. It's a nice, safe place, non-political, free of any politics involved, where parents can come and have a good time, some family time with their kids.
What's the difference between special needs and special ed? Is they all the same? What's the difference?
Well, in order to be qualified for special education, you must have a special need. So either you have a speech impediment, or you have a hearing impediment, a visual impediment, or you may be autistic or have multiple impairments. And that may qualify you for related services and special needs within the Elizabeth School District.
And are there shortcomings in this district, Elizabeth District?
There's many shortcomings in this district. I mean, it's a very large district, so I wouldn't expect anything less. We have about 30,000 students, and then we have about 10 to 20% that are classified as special needs. And that is. Actually, I was just comparing statistics as to the classification of students, and I've noticed that in smaller districts, they're classifying at a higher rate, whereas Elizabeth is not classifying with triple the amount of students. And they're not classifying as high as a rate as other towns that are nearby. So that definitely is an issue. And I hope it can be addressed. I know we did definitely have that shortcoming. We haven't had a proper special education parent advisory council, which is something that is mandated by law that we have. So there hasn't. We don't have one that's functioning. Well, let me explain first the CPAC. The CPAC is a council composed of parents that come together and they address systemic concerns within the Elizabeth public schools or any public school district in reality. And the first CPAC was actually elected, and yours truly was the president of the CPAC. When I started addressing systemic concerns and teaching parents about advocacy and where to get resources, quickly that turned into a policy to remove me and for the board to then appoint who they wanted to. So last year, they had the principal and the PTO president appointing and selecting members of CPAC. When I spoke at a board meeting that having a PTO president would be an impediment, because that person will then have to, that parent will have to come and say, I'm a parent of a special needs student. Not everyone is comfortable, and that's frankly none of anybody's business except your own. So after that, the policy was then modified to be that it had to be a principal and a member of the child study team. But what ends up happening with that is, guess what? That parent, that advocate parent, won't get in, because the child study team knows the parents, so they won't do that either. So rather than do it by a process of democratic vote, where everybody gets together, gets in a room, and actually gets to say, hey, I want to be a part of that, and who wants to vote for so-and-so, and we need 6 parents, the district has taken it upon themselves to pick and choose who they want.
Well, I tell you, you got your work cut out. I mean,
I
you're talking
sure
about, you said 20% of 30,000,
That's a pretty high amount.
That's a few thousand kids that's
Absolutely.
whatever.
And communication is definitely also a big lack. I know that we just started facilitated IEPs. This happened in July. We just found out last month, only because I went to a CPAC workshop, and one of the heads of state was there presenting in special education, and Trench had shown up. And parents now have an option of doing a facilitated IEP meeting. And a facilitated IEP meeting basically means that if you think that you're not going to get what you want, or you want to work with the district, that there are many issues, you can ask for a facilitator to come in from Trenton. The facilitator sits there with you, and they try to hash it out and come to an amicable and amenable agreement. Kind of like mediation, but not mediation. So they're trying to work through what the issues are and seeing where we can go. And parents just recently were not notified of that. It was not advertised anywhere. They actually put it up on a website, and it's in a very obscure place that you wouldn't think to look for it. So I'm here to inform the community that you do have those options. If you feel like you're going into an IEP meeting and it's going to be challenging, you can request for a facilitated IEP meeting. And if you don't, you can always reach out to me. I'll be more than willing to help you in advocating and trying to find out what's wrong and what you're looking for, and seeing if we can get a resolution.
How would someone get in contact with you?
You can find me through the Elizabeth Parents and Students Care page. You can private message me, Maria Liza Lorenz, on Facebook, and also Elizabeth Unique and Special Kids is our other group that we run for special needs parents. So you can find me through any of those. You will always find me at a board meeting unless there is a disaster, an event or phenomenon, but you can always find me here at these board meetings. Thank you so much.
She's an expert.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Here we're here with another parent and an advocate, activist from the great city of Elizabeth School District, and tell us your name and what you do.
Hi. All right, thank you for having me. My name is Christina Morera. I run a Facebook page, Elizabeth Parents and Students Care. I started that page about 3 years ago because I was having an issue with PARC testing and finding resources.
What's PARC?
PARC is the standardized test used to gauge how children are performing, and it's done at the state level. but there's a lot of controversy behind Park and the way it was instituted and the way it was developed. And right now, in the state of New Jersey, it's become a graduation requirement. And I also am an organizer for another group, Save Our Schools New Jersey, which is a grassroots group which helps advocate on behalf of standardized testing, and charter schools is another issue that they are also involved with. So
You support charter schools?
I do not support charter schools. It's kind of a tricky issue because I was born and raised in Newark, and I attended Ann Street School down in Newark, and I know, and I work down there in a dental office. That's my real job. So I know the struggles of parents who are sending their kids to what essentially people are calling failing schools, schools that are not up to par. And you want the best for your child now. You don't want to wait to have to fight the system to get your child into a school. So I understand people wanting to get something better, but what happens with charter schools is they're pulling valuable dollars out of our public school system to take with them to charter schools, and then they're saying that our public schools aren't succeeding. Does something need to be done to address it? Yes. We need to find a better way to help our public schools succeed, but I don't think pulling dollars out of our public schools to send to charter schools, especially the for-profit ones, is the answer.
So I was gonna say, because Plainfield right now, they had 500 students walked out because their charter school had pulled so much funding from their school district, it's caused them to now cut,
Right.
teachers and all kinds of programs in the school system.
Exactly, and that's what happens, and that's what I am opposed to. So I'm not necessarily opposed to, charter schools in general, but this big push now, especially with this new administration, this big push for charter schools everywhere at all costs, is something that really needs to be slowed down and looked at and examined. So this is how I became kind of involved, was through the Park testing, the standardized test that they use, and now it's implemented for graduation requirements. And, I couldn't find any real information about Elizabeth, what the policies were here in Elizabeth. So I said, you know what, let me start a page, and I'll invite some parents I know, and we can talk about issues that are happening in Elizabeth. And so it just kind of grew like that. And then I attended my first board meeting about 3 years ago. And I was dumbfounded and blown away at virtually what was a circus that was happening here, with people yelling at each other and, all sorts of craziness. And so that's how I became involved and started to educate parents about what was going on at the district level. And then we just kind of, progressed from there.
Well, you're doing a good job.
I'm trying. What we need is more parents to be involved. It can't just be the same 2 or 3 parents showing up at the board meetings or talking about the same issues. We need more parents to get involved.
How they contact you?
They can contact me by going on our Facebook page, Elizabeth Parents and Students Care, my own personal page, Christina Morera, and obviously you can inbox me on my Facebook page. So those are probably the best 2 ways to contact me. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We just need more parental involvement. That's what we need.
You hear that, right? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here's Salaam Ismail, and with the Elizabeth District President of the Board of Education, Commissioner Stan Neron. And it's a pleasure to have you on tape here to give your support for the Massive Youth March.
Definitely support the voice of our youth, and anything we can do to empower them, to support them, and to support their cause, their rights. It's important that our students take an initiative to stand up and fight for what they believe in.
And you are, I wouldn't say former activist, but you're still an activist, even though you are an elected official board commissioner. What would you tell, especially new jacks or new youth that's stepping up to being an activist like you was back in the day?
Well, in 1964, Fannie Lou Hamer made an unforgettable speech at the Democratic National Convention where she said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And as youth, when we have issues that are impacting us as people in general in our communities, when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's very important that you step up and do something. Whether that's a civic engagement, whether that's get involved in your community, whether that's do something kind for someone else, or challenge a policy or procedure that you don't approve of. Whatever the social ills are that are impacting society, is so important that you step up and take initiative in your life.
And I'm telling you, students, he was a college activist, started before then. Then he became a college student activist and worked his way up, and now he's still representing us in the community. He's still an example.
It never stops.
Never stops.
It never stops, and it's an ongoing fight. Thank you for all the great work.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate it.